I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fuck me in the ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for 2025 Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler. So, what is the plot of Sinners? Well, from this movie stars Michael B. Jordan, and it comes a new vision of fear. Sinners, and about two twins played by Michael B. Jordan that try to leave their troubled lives behind, who return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. So, as for my reaction to Sinners, well, when I saw the trailers for this, I wasn't really keen on seeing this when I saw the trailers because I will say this. I don't think Ryan Coogler is as great of a director as people make him out to be. His other two critically acclaimed films were I don't find them as great as people make them out to be. Yeah, I did used to love Creed, but it hasn't really aged that greatly as I once remembered it being. Because even though Creed himself was written better in the sequels, he's not really likable in the first film, and yeah, Sly did get Oscar nominated, but the thing is, all Rocky in that movie does is pass out, vomit, and cough blood and get cancer. And apparently that's more Oscar-worthy than any of the scenes of him grieving in Cliffhanger, or many more Oscar-worthy moments he had in Rocky 1 or 2 or Balboa. Black Panther, yeah, was good, but also kind of overrated, and it did have some awful PS1 CGI in the finale that did almost kind of ruin it. So, I wasn't really eager to check this movie out right away. But, I then found out how much people apparently had really loved it, so I went to check this out last night. And I will say this. This is honestly Ryan Coogler's best film. And yeah, it's definitely one of the best vampire movies in a long time. And when it comes to where I'd rank this for best films of 2025, I would rank this second best. I'd put it second best. Is it the number one best vampire movie ever made? Okay, maybe not. Because I do kind of prefer the original Blade. I do prefer Fright Night more. I do prefer The Lost Boys more. I prefer the original Nosferatu more. I do prefer Bram Stoker's Dracula more. But I still find those a bit better than this film. And the reason why I would still put Warfare slightly above this film is because Sinners is a great film, but Warfare I'd put at number one because Warfare is something that kind of sticks with you after you watch it. It leaves an effect on you. And that film was directed by a real-life veteran. This film is definitely great, but the first half does kind of cause it's kind of a bit slow, but more on that later. But how was Sinners made? Well, Coogler began developing the genre film through his production company Proximity Media by January 2024, and Michael B. Jordan was cast. Then Warner Bros. Acquired distribution rights for the next month following a bidding war, and casting for additional roles took place in April. Filming then took place from April to July 2024, and longtime Coogler collaborator Ludwig Göransson composed the film score and served as the executive producer. Then, after the film was officially shot and marketed, Sinners would premiere on April 3rd, 2025, and it was theatrically released in the United States on Easter weekend, on April 18th, 2025, by Warner Bros. Pictures. And this film has gotten critical acclaim. Praise went to Coogler's direction and Göransson's score, and Sinners has already become the 7th highest grossing film of 2025, and so far is proving to be the very first original film in a long time to actually be making money. Like, yeah, usually in this decade, an original idea sometimes bombs. And most of the films that have made money in this era have been either superhero, not really superhero films. Yeah, they've made money, but they've also bombed. Just sequels. Really just sequels that have been making money. However, this has like made 168 million worldwide, or 163 or 161, and has already like made huge numbers in its first 2 weekends. Yeah. So, I can predict this pulling in quite a huge profit. And it's also the first horror film in 35 years to get an A from Cinema Score. Now that is something. When was the last time a horror film got an A from Cinema Score? I'll find out after I do the review, and maybe I'll post, if I do find out what the last one before this was, I'll post that in the comment section. Whenever that does happen. But the first half of Sinners is rich with character development and cultural depth. The realism is brilliant, from the Mississippi and Chicago connection to the incredible blues subplot that brings soul and authenticity to the story and kicks off our vampires. The party scene alone is definitely, despite some weird things that do kind of happen in it, it's definitely great for filmmaking achievement. It brims with energy, culture, community. And when it comes to the performances, when it comes to the cast, like Michael B. Jordan, I do love him as an actor. A lot. He's excellent in this film. Like, he really plays these two twins right there, and he does it very well, playing these two roles. Miles Canton, in his breakout debut, really does make a powerful debut, and I think he has a bright future ahead of him after this film. And Delroy Lindo also gives a very great performance in this film. It was easily the best character of the film. The acting across the board is full of expression, authenticity, and nuance. And of course, the horror elements, especially with the vampire twist that happens in the film, are very well woven in. And the jump scares. The jump scares are effective. Like, I saw this in the theaters. And every time a jump scare happened, I actually did not expect it. And I actually jumped. I actually was startled. Like, this film does better jump scares than Jason Blum does in his whole life. These jump scares felt fresh. Now, this was creativity. And now you do a jump scare. And heck, it kind of reminds me a lot. This film also did kind of give me From Dusk Till Dawn vibes, where that film started off as a typical thriller, and then the later half it turned into a vampire film. And much like that, this film shifts gears midway through. It transforms into something different for a stretch, and the horror doesn't overwhelm, and it enhances, and the film's final act ties both worlds together in a meaningful, thought-provoking way. And the obviousness plays with the viewers when the cinematography composes a story and contextual structure, and creatively mapping stuff like history, origins, and features of music and of course the black population back then. Right there, it does all that stuff. Like, it does all that stuff without being overly preachy. This is the right way to do social commentary. It's this movie. This movie is how you do social commentary in a film, without being over preachy. So, how do we start the film? Well, this film takes place in 1932, You have two twins and World War I veterans, Smoke and Stack. They return to Mississippi Delta after years spent working for the Chicago outfit. And they use this stolen money that they stole from gangsters, and they purchase a sawmill from Hogwood, this racist landowner, and start a juke joint for the local black community. Sammy, who's their cousin, who wants to be a guitarist, joins them despite opposition from his pastor, Father Jedediah, who warns that blues music is supernatural. Like, the film starts off with a guy with a broken guitar actually walking into a church, and then it cuts to one day earlier. Like, this whole film actually, despite being 237 minutes, actually takes place in an entire day and night. In one entire day and one entire night. And the characters, like, it's kind of difficult to separate Elijah and Elias because they're very identical. Especially when they're entering the last half, but the rest of the characters are all very good. These are characters that have their own backgrounds, they have their own personality. The pacing, despite some of the first half, is actually very good and enjoyable. The cinematography is beautiful from beginning to end. It's got a gripping visual tone as well, and production design is solid, and it makes the Western vibes even more prominent, and the sound design may not be magnificent, but the details can still be heard. And the blues music not only beautifies, but also becomes part of the story. And the acting from the cast is all good, and right there, and another one that also does stand out, along with Delroy Lindo, is Hailey Stenfield in playing her character. I also really like Hailey Stenfield as an actress. Like, I liked her acting in films like the Spider-Verse movies. I liked her acting in Bumblebee. And no, I have no interest in checking out the Hawkeye show. Right there. So yeah, I also really enjoy her in this film. Right there. And there's a pretty surprising, interesting thing about her character when you first meet her. And the film definitely is very original. It matches genres and does so masterfully. And Ryan Coogler wraps up in a beautifully crafted world with all these fascinating characters. Yeah, and there's some commentary around like blues being devil's music, and while we get to see how talented Sammy is, the character as a blues, like, the music is where the film also shines well and truly. Like, Ludwig's score is undoubtedly a masterpiece. It's definitely one of his best scores yet. It guides you through the film's pivotal emotional scenes, the scary moments, and how Serena Goranson produces the songs. And it's an admired effort all the more. And the next epic applause really goes to editor Michael P. Shaver, whose abrupt cutaways during the typical jump scares really add so much to the theatrical experience. And the jump scares, like, this is definitely one of the best theater experiences I had this year. Right there, surprisingly, and this also was, this was a full-on theater too, much like with the re-release of Revenge of the Sith. Like, Sinner does interesting new things with horror tropes. It really takes its time, the slowness of the first half, right there, and Sinners bites off a lot more for one film to handle. The slower scenes, they'd probably be easier to appreciate on rewatch, which I'm definitely going to rewatch, for sure. And it's definitely not a bad thing, it's actually a good thing. So, to be able to get more staff for this place, the twins recruit some other staff. They recruit pianist Delta Slim and singer Pearline, whom Sammy had become enamored with. And as performers, like Smoke's estranged wife Annie as a cook, local Chinese shopkeepers Grace and Bo as suppliers, and field workers Cornbread as a bouncer. Then Stack reconnects with his ex-girlfriend Mary, who passes for white, and Mary resents Stack for abandoning her when he left for Chicago, and Smoke and Annie argue over her belief in a cult. Annie insists her practices had kept the two brothers safe, and Smoke bitterly reminds her that their infant daughters still died, and meanwhile, this immigrant vampire Remick flees from Choctaw vampire hunters and turns a married Klansman couple into vampires. So, the juke joint has its opening night, and Sammy's music gets transcendent and summons the spirits of both the past and future to join the entrance crowd. The performance draws Remick's attention, and he arrives with his minions, offering money and music people to enter. But the twins are suspicious of this, and they hesitate on letting them in, and so the vampires have to retreat. So the twins get reminded that the bar needs the income, and so Mary meets Remick outside, but then she gets turned into a vampire. She then goes back inside and seduces Stack and bites him and turns him into a vampire. Smoke then shoots her, but she's unarmed by regular bullets and escapes. Because these are vampires. Vampires can't be killed easily. The only way to kill a vampire is you stake it or you give it garlic. Or sunlight. Then Cornbread gets attacked by Remick and turned as well. Like, this is where the film just shifts gears. Like, you start off like this historical drama film. Then once you meet these three, that's where the film shifts its genre to the vampire stuff. The vampire stuff doesn't happen until like the middle of the film. The first half is kind of like the old period stuff, and then once you meet this trio, and you meet Holly Steinfeld's character, this is where the film shifts gears. Kind of like how From Dusk Till Dawn shifted its gears. Like, Jack O'Donnell does great blowing his performance out as the lead vampire. He doesn't have much screen time, but he really does command it when you see him on screen. He's a natural-born leader. He has a metamorphic ability easily as well in this performance. And for Miles Catton's film debut, this is going to lead him on a fruitful journey in acting. He was definitely a powerhouse in this film, and Sammy really has this quiet, reserved nature, but some temper bubbles deep within. And like Michael B. Jordan once again in this film, he blows the viewer away with his dual performances of two twin characters. Very charming and intimidating in these roles, and one actor creates two completely different characters. Like his role of Smoke, easily is definitely one of the best characters he's played. And of course, the special effects they had to have Michael B. Jordan on Ford's characters on the screen are very great because he looks great with both his characters on screen together. Michael B. Jordan shows his performances that he's definitely one of the best actors working today. Like, and from as soon as the twins and Sammy start recruiting people for the juke joints, like, you get so engaged with the characters and the performances. Like, this is a film that's definitely does well in grabbing people's attention with the conversation of the characters because they're charismatic and precise, and it gets more interesting with each act that the vampires coming to play one of the most creative ways possible. And the great first two acts lead to one of the most to a very unforgettable final act I've ever seen in a theater. And the movie does well in making the viewers feel the tension right in their bones right before the climax even happens. And not many movies today would actually be able to do something like that, but Cinder really does well and brings some serious emotions out of the viewers. Like, and I also really like about this movie is how original it is with its take on the vampires. They have this gimmick to them that makes them more interesting. There's a sequence with them before they attack that is just really sock-blowing. There's this wonderful musical sequence connecting past and present, which is something you don't really expect in a film like this. I had no idea what to expect from this film, and it does really well in blowing expectations on some of the crazy things that happen. And the movie really takes vampires and blues music to create something truly extraordinary fresh, which is definitely hard to see in a big budget movie today with so much originality. Oh, and another thing. I also really like this movie's sense of humor. This movie does well in making the viewer laugh, and the audience I also even laughed at some of the funny stuff. Like, there's some perfectly comedic dialogue, which does well in taking a little tension off from an intense scene. And right there, like, there's even one bit where they're in this field and they meet one character, one of Michael B. Jordan's characters, like, fuck your wife, like, what? And just stuff, and or even when one of Michael B. Jordan's characters actually shoots two people robbing his car, and one of the guys that gets shot's like, I didn't know that was your car. And yeah, like, there's stuff that does kind of take away the dark tone of the film, but the longer the characters are in the juke joint, the darker the film gets, though, and the more nervy the tension gets. Like, once they're dealing with all the vampires, the movie doesn't really have much comedic tone after that. So now, our leads have to evacuate the joints, and so everybody's evacuated, but once, like, the joint is emptied, this is where the vampires begin their attack, and they turn all the departed patrons into vampires, including Bo. Stack then comes back as a vampire, but Annie uses pickled garlic juice to repel him. And then, of course, Annie educates the survivors that sunlight, silver, or wooden sticks can kill vampires, and they cannot enter a building unless invited. And Remick, who's now leading a horde of vampires but still unable to enter the bar, he negotiates. He praises Sammy's supernatural talent and claims that vampirism offers immortality, freedom, and escape from racism, and wants to use Sammy's skills to summon the spirits of his lost community. Remick also warns that Hogwood, who heads this local clan, plans to attack the bar at dawn. The survivors refuse his offer, and Remick and Bro confront Grace, and they threaten to attack her daughter, but so Grace is desperate and dares the vampires to attack the joint, which invites them in. Grace, Delta Slim, and Annie get killed in the battle. Mary is devastated by Annie's death and flees the bar. And during this scene, you even get this whole dance sequence involving the vampires that actually does kind of feel very Sam Raimi-like. Yeah, you get the song number that the vampires all dance to, and it does well, and actually does kind of feel, it kind of feels like a scene you would find in either Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness. So that was kind of a funny, cool moment to watch. This whole scene felt more Sam Raimi-like than the entire Multiverse of Madness did. So after Annie has been killed, Smoke, Sammy, and Perline attempt to escape. Remick and Stack ambush them though, and Smoke and Stash clash in this brutal fight, and Sammy and Perline face off with Remick, and Perline is bitten, begs Sammy to flee. Then, of course, during the final confrontation, once Reddick has them face to face, Sammy smashes his guitar over Remick's head, and Smoke arrives just in time to kill him with a stake. Then the sun rises, and the vampire horde is incinerated, and Sammy is then urged to flee. Then, because Smoke knows Hogwood and the clan are still coming to ambush the joints. So Smoke gets ready, grabs a few guns, and Hogwood and the clan arrive, and they're about to storm the joint. Smoke then, in the bushes, ambushes and kills them, but during the ambush he's mortally wounded, and before dying he sees a vision of Annie and their daughter Sammy. No, actually sees a vision of Annie and their daughter before he passes on, and he can finally reunite with them in peace. Sammy, though, he's battered and grief-stricken. He returns to his father's church, and this is where he got the scene in the beginning of the movie that started it off, before the actual plot kicked off. Jedediah's pastor pleads him to renounce music and seek salvation, but Sammy, from what we can tell, he refuses, and he leaves with his guitar in hand. Right there, and that's where the credits do kind of roll, but I'll get to more of the real ending later. When it comes to Remick, the main villain, for the little screen time he has, is pretty unforgettable. Remick's a perfect mixture of politeness and terror that a vampire has. His terminal insane abilities really make him that much more memorable and threatening because of his mix of mind games and killer instincts, and the cinematography that Autumn Durald Archipel delivers is dripping with the gothic southern atmosphere, has two amazing one-takes, and first being this take with the Chows going through town, and second is also this very stunning musical sequence going back and forth in time, and the way the film is shot in another way really shows how this movie keeps the viewer mesmerized. And the editing too is also really great, because it keeps the story going at a fluid pace and showing off creative techniques that have two scenes happening at the same time, or to cut to another scene right before something crazy goes down. The costumes fit the movie perfectly, and the makeup on the vampires is believable. We now live in a world where a lot of big budgeted films are remakes or sequels, or just legacy sequels, or stuff based on properties. Sinners is the kind of film I wish we would get more often. It's original, it's entertaining, it's intense, it has great satire and commentary on issues important to this day. This is a film that's a risk for Ryan Coogler because he hasn't done many films that are inspired or based on different narratives. Sinners is actually all original and unique, and this is the kind of films I wish Ryan Coogler would try to do more often. I wish he would do more original stuff like this movie, because this is the first time I've really loved one of his works. Right there, and I hope he continues up with stuff like this. This is the kind of risk we're trying. And Coogler masterfully blends the elements of horror and drama through music and blood. Right there. And like, having these vampires be awakened by blues music is actually very creative. So, now to get on to how the finale actually does fully end. It cuts to 60 years later, Stack and Mary are low ageless, and they visit an elderly Sammy, who's now celebrated blues musician in Chicago, and Stack reveals that Smoke spared the night at the joints, and he was allowed to go free that under condition that Sammy would live in peace. And so the couple offers Sammy a chance of being immortal, but he declines, and after he performs for the couple, Sammy tells them that though that fateful night still haunts him, right until the sun went down, like it was actually the greatest day of his life, and Stack agrees with that. And since it was the last time he saw Smoke, and the last time he saw his son, and the only time he ever felt free. But that's how Sinner ends, right there. Remick and everyone else has turned into a vampire, and are killed off except for Stack and Mary. Sammy gets to escape the juke joint with his life. Smoke goes out fighting the racist KKK clan, and reunites with Annie and their child in death. Sammy does go on to have a successful career as a blues musician, and reunites with Stack and Mary in 1992. Sammy's now content with life, refuses to be immortal, but he admits he's still haunted by the nights of the vampires. But Stack knows that it was the last time he saw Smoke, so it was still one of the greatest nights of his life. The last time he saw his son, the last time he felt free. So yeah, that's how Sinners beautifully ends. Now, would I have any bad qualities with the film? Yeah, I would. The reason why I wouldn't really give this a 10 slightly is, well, the runtime. Because for the runtime, not sure I don't know if you really needed to make this 2.5 hours long, even though it's paced really well. Right there, and the first act, I'm not really a big fan of the first act. The first act does drag a little bit. Yeah, it's to kind of develop the characters, but the first act does kind of feel a little bit slow at times, and because you got to get through the first act to kind of be able to get to the exciting stuff in the second and third acts. But other than those, yeah, I like Sinners. And I would definitely recommend watching this. Even if you're not a fan of Ryan Coogler, I would still definitely check this out. This is the kind of stuff I hope we get more from Ryan Coogler, right there, and I hope we try to get more films like this in today's world. These are the kind of films we need to have more of in today's world, less sequels and stuff. Like, this is definitely a film I'm going to buy once it hits physical media. So in the end, Sinners is totally worth watching and buying if you have been dying for an actually original film for years and want a good vampire movie again. If you're tired of a bunch of sequels and want to see something original, I would definitely check this out. Anyways, that's it for my review of Sinners. If we're in hungry Sinners, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want an original movie again, and I've been dying for a good vampire movie for many years, you're going to get that with Sinners, so I would totally watch and buy Sinners for your collection, no doubt. If we're in hungry Sinners, I'm going to give Sinners a 9.5 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for Sinners. Now, I want to know in the comments down below what you guys thought about Sinners, whether you love this movie or whether you were not a fan of this movie, personally. And until then, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.